All right.
So
Well,
Andy, how are we feeling about the webcam?
I think we should just roll without the webcam for today so we can get started.
All right.
Yeah, it's not feeling great, Chief.
Okay, webcam not feeling great. Anyways, guys, we are 5 minutes in, and let's actually start the podcast. So, my name is James. I am your host. Welcome to the Boys Podcast Live. I have here two beautiful gentlemen, Christian and Andy. They are joining us today. Christian, my co-host, and Andy, our special guest or potentially future member. Who knows? It's all a mystery to us and you. We have several spicy topics for today. We're gonna have a lot of fun with these, and we're gonna dig in deep as fuck. And so, that being said, we're gonna get right into it. Our first topic of the day, we're gonna be talking about Disguised Toast, why he's getting canceled, and first of all, Christian, why is he getting canceled?
Well, I'll go on that in a second. You need to switch names around because all the names are switched out. Okay, but Toast is getting canceled for quite a few things. This happened more so last week. I think it's kind of died down, but just a bunch of things that he said in the past because he is a edgy humor type of guy, and as you know, even the slightly just anything that is slightly edgy, racist, sexist, whatever, is taken about 500 times more seriously nowadays than it would have been about 5 years ago. So a bunch of past content that he used to do is being brought up, just stuff like that. A bunch of assumptions are being thrown around by, cancel culture, stuff like that, things that aren't true at all. And I mean, some of these kids are just like eating it up and, just going at Toast. But he made a response to everything, just kind of saying like, hey, this is why you're wrong. This is why you suck, stuff like that. So, I don't really know if he's being hardcore canceled anymore, but a lot of people just went at him.
Yeah. So, according to an article about it, after several people started getting the Disguised Toast canceled trend, he decided to break his silence on Twitter. Hours after the thread went viral, Toast posted addressing my problematic past and being canceled. He wrote, I have always towed the line of edgy humor when it comes to my online presence. Over the last 5 years, I've developed a more sarcastic, blunt, and satirical personality. There's nothing about what I've done publicly that I have tried to hide or delete or claim ignorance to. I take full responsibility of all that I've said and my actions. I can proudly say that I'm someone who is really open about my life in a space where many hide, not because they are bad people, but because people on the internet love judging and backseating a streamer's life. Toast revealed he decided to speak up when his friends started getting targeted. In his response, he also spoke about the allegations placed on him. He ended the post by writing, the one thing I ask is to leave my friends alone. They are wonderful people that don't deserve any hate for associating with me. Boycott my content, cancel me, whatever, but don't drag them into it by pressuring them or demanding an apology from them just because we play games together. What do you think about that, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things with cancel culture right now is obviously people are very, on edge about anything that could be construed as offensive or, racist or anything like that. And especially as like a high profile member of the streaming community, it's definitely important that you obviously watch what you say, but, for instance, the claims that he's racist, definitely one of the instances that I know they're referencing involves basically an off-color joke that he read off a website. And I believe in the original clip, it was actually blocked out. But especially now, people are really, really quick to judge. Not saying what he did, especially some of the more obvious recorded stuff is excusable. But, it's one of those things where you can't just do things that are provocative and not expect recourse. And it's unfortunate that, some streamers aren't free to do that. And have that freedom because of that. But, if you are obviously blatantly doing things that people are accusing him of, it's definitely one of those things where you have to accept the consequences for your edginess, so to speak.
Right. So that's definitely a great point that it's a much tougher climate for content creators, public figures, especially on the internet where, like he said in that article or in his Twitter longer post that a lot of people like to hide just because people on the internet, they do like to just attack people for that. What do you think of his response? What do you think of him saying, I don't care if you try to cancel me, I'm not afraid of who I am? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's a good point that, if you're constantly changing to try and appease people, you're not really being yourself and you're kind of just fake. And I think that for content creators who try and, add that little personal spice, I think those are the people that obviously get where they got for a reason. And if you're basically trying to appease everyone, you're going to lose yourself and you're going to lose your core audience in the process. I mean, you have to at some point just pick a direction and shoot. You can't just constantly be wavering back and forth.
Absolutely, Christian. What do you think of his response?
I don't know. I think he kind of put it perfectly. If I'm being totally honest with you, if I were in his shoes, I probably would have said something along the same line. There isn't really much else that he could have said unless, as Andy said, he was going to change his entire persona, his entire personality just to appease people, which, if I'm being honest, that just sounds like it wouldn't even be fun. Like, I don't know why you'd be doing it at that point, why you'd be streaming, making videos, whatever, if you're just going to constantly change to be whatever somebody wants you to be versus somebody that you actually are. So I think what he said, he did perfectly, did it professionally. He kind of went at them a little bit aggressively every now and then, but it was needed. It was definitely needed. And it seems like things have definitely calmed down for the time being. So I'm glad that he isn't like totally canceled, anything like that. But I mean, if you look at, what he tweeted out, the things that people said against him, like, for example, one of them said he promotes pedophilia because they were doing a game of, what is it, Scriblio? And the prompt was illegal. So he drew a stick figure of a young girl, saying that pedophilia is legal, basically. And, while the humor was, quote unquote, tasteless, that doesn't mean at all that he supports pedophilia, stuff like that. So, and the fact that he even has to say that just shows where our current generation is and the direction that we're taking in. And to me, that's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad that, people have to come out and say, wow, I don't support something that horrible, all for some edgy humor.
Yeah, so guys, whoever's watching, I just want to make it very clear. The Boys Podcast Live, we do not support pedophiles.
Yeah,
just
no, we don't.
That clear. Okay?
No.
We're 100% not for them. Not about it. So just so we're absolutely clear. But you're absolutely right, Christian. It is like I was saying earlier, a very tough climate because there is so much cancel culture out there, and there's people who want to take the moral high ground just to take it. They might not even care about you. They might not even know who you are. You may not have any impact on their lives whatsoever. But what they want to do is they want to get on Twitter. They want to get a following, an audience, and they want to attack because it's really easy to make people angry. Getting a following by making people angry is a lot easier than getting a following by making people love you.
Well, and if I can jump in here, I mean, right now we have a really big problem with people not gathering facts. They'll read a news article title and they think that they're a subject matter expert on the subject. And so when they read a Twitter,
that is so true.
A Twitter article where, it's 255 characters, they think that they've just read somebody's entire life and they feel qualified to, talk about the subject. And that's one of the most frustrating things. I mean, you see it on Facebook, you see it on the news, CNN will say something some way and Fox says it's something else. And depending on how it's worded, it means something completely different. And, in situations like this where people are just, obviously in a mood to basically burn down someone's life over stuff that happened years ago, it's just frustrating, one, for the content creator, because then they have to always constantly backtrack. They have to constantly be on their edge. And again, it goes back to, basically changing who you are. But, people just fail to critically think about a situation and gather all the facts before forming an informed opinion. And they just rely on, information to be spoon fed to them. And I think that's part of the problem with the cancel culture, especially in a situation like this. People don't actually take the time to react and, form an educated opinion on the matter and then spread their opinion. They just basically grab their pitchforks and say, let's burn down this man's life, even though, in the grand scheme of things, everything that he's said and done is, researchable. You can find all the evidence to support what this guy's done and form an educated opinion. And it's just unfortunate that, so many people are just attacking a guy because, some influencer said, hey, look, this is bad. And you see it a lot, it isn't just this guy, there's a lot of cancel culture where people just, they can't form an informed opinion. Yeah. I mean, like Waffles was saying, the current state of content creation, public opinion, everyone has an opinion on something, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah, and I guess you're kind of veering into cancel culture as a whole here. So I guess I'll just keep it that way. But I think Waffles put it perfectly. It's the same that people just look back, into your past and they dig into who you were as a person in the past, as if that speaks anything as to who you are now as a person. I mean, the whole point of growing up is to change who you were in the past and mature and grow from those choices that you made in the past. So for them to say, wow, you're a bad person just for something you did, like, 10 odd years ago, that's just fucking insane to me. That we went from focusing on maturing, growing up, being a good person to, wow, you did something 20 years ago, woohoo, you brought up, but now you're a bad person. Like, I don't know, to me, that's crazy.
No, and I totally get that. I'm in the same boat. When I was like 12, 13, 14 years old, I was a little shit. I was just trying to be edgy because I had never been edgy in my life before. So I said terrible things. Luckily, they weren't recorded or on the internet. But it's the same thing. It's like if someone were to somehow have a recording of that or something like that and bring that up in 5 years or something, they'd be like, oh my God, cancel James, cancel Goodnight because he said this shit 10 years ago. And I'm like, hey, just so we're aware, again, number one, still not supporting pedophiles. We're against that. Number two, not for racism. Actually pretty against that. I can speak for all the fellows on the podcast here. We don't really like that. We don't like sexism, homophobia. We're all actually pretty decent people. Believe it or not, right? And it's just the idea that you can take these out of context clips from years ago. And I get it, right? There's a saying like people never change, all that shit. But to a degree, it's like when you're especially in a younger age and you're trying to find yourself and your identity, and you're also trying to get reactions out of people like I was, like I still do. That's a lot of what I did growing up was I liked to try to make people react, try to make them feel uncomfortable or anything just so I could get that reaction, get a laugh, get whatever the fuck it was I was looking for.
Yeah, like awkward humor to me was the best humor as a child.
And it was
I love that.
Yeah. And some things were funny and some things were pretty tasteless, but you understand that and you learn that things are tasteless because you say those things and then you're like, oh God, everyone was like, wow, that's really racist. You shouldn't say that. And you're like, that's not a joke. That's racism. I won't do that anymore. So I think that it's just tough when you're going back into people's lives when they're much younger. They haven't had the life experience that they now have. It's just tough to try to ruin their lives because of something they said so long ago. And I do agree when there are certain situations and certain contexts of like, holy shit, like, we didn't even talk about this in the pod and the topics, but like David Dobrik, and all that shit that has been kind of coming out, which I don't know a lot about, so I won't talk about, but certain allegations I think are more important than others. If someone like the guy tweeting out, Disguised Toast made some very dark and offensive jokes back in the day. Like, okay. Cool.
When you look at Jake Paul, who literally has a like sexual harassment allegation against him, I think, and that's not getting really covered at all anymore. That was brought up for like one day and then it got covered by the Jake Paul fight.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's an interesting thing because this isn't a topic that just affects content creators. I mean, like obviously I've been in the business and now I'm out of it, but I mean even like, public servant,
oh my God, yeah.
You're wearing a body cam. I mean, it's good that I believe in my opinion that everyone, cops and, firefighters and, police dispatchers and stuff like that are all recorded. I mean, obviously there's some burden to, watch public servants, but, people will take a clip of something that, they'll record the 10-second juicy clip and have no backstory on it. Everyone gets all riled up and then all of a sudden the backstory comes out and, oh, hey, yeah, guess what? That's not what all happened. I mean, one little 10-second clip and you got people showing up at your doorstep threatening your family.
But most of the time at that point it's too late. Everybody just has the 10-second clip. Nobody has the backstory and people just go off and assume things. And the first story that gets out is what goes. So the actual backstory is just, it's not there. It's gone. So, well, that's probably enough for now because we have about 4 topics to do in 40 minutes.
Yeah, we're chilling. I mean, we can go a little bit longer if we need to as well.
Do you want to do Tarkov or?
Yeah,
All
we
right,
can
go
talk
for
about
it.
Tarkov. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is a video game that I play called Escape from Tarkov. You may have heard of it. You may have watched me play it. You may not know anything about it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the current state of Tarkov and also kind of bring Andy and Christian into the conversation because while they may not be Tarkov aficionados like myself, they can still offer good insight into gaming and what makes gaming an enjoyable experience. So some of the issues that have been plaguing Escape from Tarkov are things like desync. That's one thing, and if you're not aware of what desync is basically the server netcode not really syncing the players up together as close as they could be. In an online video game, right? You're sitting at your computer, someone across the country is sitting at theirs, and it's the network's job to make sure that you guys are both seeing the same thing at the same time. As far as Tarkov goes, their netcode is not the best, and so you often have situations where you peek a corner, you see a guy, you go hide behind the corner, and then you die. Afterwards. On his screen, he shot you in the head, but on your screen, you were already hiding because that's the netcode isn't properly coded, or I'm not going to pretend to know how it works. I'm just, one of the masses, just like, fix it. How hard could it be? Fix it. But basically that's one big problem. But that's more on the developer side. Not as big a thing that we can really fix as a player base until whether the infrastructure of the servers gets better or the code or whatever they decide to do with that. What we can really talk about and fix is there's this age-old discussion about crabs and crabs/rats versus the chads, right? The crabs and rats are the people who sit in corners. They camp. They sit in bushes. They're waiting silent, ready to shoot someone in the back or ambush them. The chads are the people who sprint around. They try to peek people. They use desync to their advantage, or try to, just by pre-firing corners and playing super aggressive. And there seems to always be a war of chads complaining about, the rats hiding, the rats complaining about the chads using desync, and all that different stuff. So I saw some good discussion about this on the podcast yesterday on Pestily stream about Tarkov and about the update. But I mean, Christian or Andy, what is your perspective on players who you have these two different play styles that are so contrasted to each other, and yet you're forced to be in lobbies with them. So what are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I think I'll go first here. I mean, it's hard to, I guess, effectively talk about, play styles when I don't know much about the game, but what I can say about it is every game is going to have their own play styles. Every game is different. Warzone's kind of the same way. Overwatch, all those games, they all have different play styles and how people play them. If netcode is an issue, you're obviously going to have a ton of people who are just going to abuse that. I mean, same with rats, people who are just scared to push out, stuff like that. They're just going to hide, loot, and, try to scurry away. I don't really know if there's much that, you really can do about it, though. I mean, if I were playing the game, I would definitely be a chat and just abuse the netcode. I mean, that seems like the best way to get loot, the best way to go about it, best way to get kills. It just sounds like fun. However, I would be an asshole in doing that, I feel like.
Well, and
I would definitely...
when we complain about desync, right, it's not like you can run around a corner, kill 3 guys before they even see you. It's a slight, maybe a half a second at times. It's not. But constant.
I mean, even like half a second. I mean, that doesn't sound like a lot to people who don't game a lot, but half a second in a game is huge.
Oh yeah,
especially
huge, yeah.
in a game like Warzone, where half a second can mean, they are 20 feet ahead of where they were about half a second before.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yeah, well, and the thing with netcode is it's really hard too because depending on how a game calculates players' positions, basically the gist of it is you have your home latency and your connection to the server. The server has to calculate all players' movements, and that's dependent on what each and every single person's reporting.
Also
and
depends on the tick rate too. The heartbeat of the server.
Yeah, the heartbeat of the server. It depends on the tick rate. Does the server have a high tick rate? And then when it gets sent back to you, somebody who's on a 1 millisecond latency connection is going to get that position and update their position faster than everyone else. And so, naturally, the closer you are to the server, the server's calculations, it's going to favor whoever's naturally closer and has the most optimal connection. And some games, they do client-side calculation where, the client calculates their position, sends it to the server agrees with it or not, and sends it back. And, it just depends on what the developer chooses. A good example of this would be like PlayerUnknown Battleground. When that game first released in beta, their netcode was awful. Like you're talking picking off the ground, you'd be sitting 30, 40 seconds picking it up, and the next thing you'd just be dead. I mean, somebody could have shot you 20 seconds ago, and then all of a sudden the server's like, oh yeah, you died, by the way. Not sure if you're aware of that, but you're dead. And so in terms of, hunt and peck playstyle versus, actually go out, it really depends on the type of person. I think that says a lot about, who a player is. The people who obviously go out are probably the people that take risks in real life. And I think that playstyle, reflects on them as a person. And I think that if you are, how gaming servers have come, yeah. I mean, if you're a hunt and gather playstyle, you probably take more calculated risks. You evaluate a situation, you sit and watch, and a kind of more of the stealthy gameplay style. And I think they definitely both have their pros and cons. In a game like Tarkov, it's a sensory game, right? I mean, you can hear where someone's at spatially 3 floors above you, and you need to choose, do I push? Do I wait? And it's just, a matter of patience and risk and reward. If you decide that it's worth the risk to go upstairs and take that fight, then go for it. If it's, if you decide that you want to wait it out and see if the other person will take the risk, I mean, it's that trade-off. Are you going to benefit from taking this risk? And I think Tarkov is one of those games where, it is a lot of that. You have to make split-second decisions. Is it worth it to take this risk, or is it worth it to just wait it out and maybe pick another fight or what have you? And spaghetti code aside, it's a game that is risk versus reward a lot of the time.
And I personally don't have issue with, and I myself will, if I hear someone running around, or especially a large group, I will freeze in my tracks and I'll try to make minimal noise. I think it's just right now the Tarkov community is frustrated with the sheer amount of people who are playing like that from the get-go with no other, sensory type of input, right? They go into a match with the sole intention of sitting and camping. And I think that's really, it's something that has started to affect the community. There are definitely still lots of players who want to play an aggressive play style, but it's putting a damper on it with so many people just sitting in corners and hiding. And again, not much you can do, but hopefully encourage the community to take more risks, have fun with the game, try to show that maybe there's more fun to a game than just camping and shooting someone in the back, which I think is something that maybe might appeal to more newer players that don't have the skills necessary to aggress and stuff. But I think there's also players who they like to be toxic little fucks.
Yeah,
that's well, I think the guy who just commented in chat, Y12348080 has a really great point.
That's games
like doesn't have it doesn't have a mechanism to encourage those people to come out of hiding. If somebody wants to kind of sit in a corner, they can. Some games remedied this by putting in a fog that kills you. Some games have inactivity timers, and some games like PUBG will award greater XP, greater drops for having more kills and more distance traveled. There's some games that give you rewards for more distance traveled. Certain metrics that indicate that you were active. And I think that they just haven't found the incentive yet to incentivize people having that aggressive playstyle. But I think that the game also was built with the intention of either, stealthy or, go loud, kick down doors type playstyle.
Which I think that there is definitely room for both of those playstyles. But I think one thing that they also talked about on Pesley's podcast was we just need more areas in Tarkov. We need more maps, more extracts. You got people who you camp and hold choke points. You might not even go loot. You might just go sit and hold outside the extract and wait for someone who has been looting to go take that extract. And one thing they mentioned was like, hey, let's just work on getting more maps out there. Let's get more extracts so that even if there are people who want to camp, that it's more spread out and you're not running into it as much, right?
I don't really know if more maps would be, I guess. I think that if you put it just great. They just need a reward for playing aggressive. More maps could definitely help, but I think if you had an incentive to be aggressive, and I think League is a great example of this. I mean, I know you guys don't really play League except for Andy, but you can sit there, you can get gold XP for passively killing minions. But if you go out and you kill a player, that's a lot more gold. That's a bit of XP, but that gold can allow you to snowball and win the game. Versus just sitting there, killing minions and leveling up from that. That only works, so long in the game. There isn't really, at least when I played Escape from Tarkov for like the 3 times I did, the only thing that really, I guess, like made me want to, shoot someone is, the reward that I got from it, or I guess a feeling that I got from it, like, yeah, I'm better than you, or, the fact that I could just loot their body, and half the time they didn't even have like good stuff on them. So it's like, why did I just waste my ammo?
Yeah. No,
So
totally. I think it's just something where you have certain players that like a certain play style, and it's frustrating to be countered by a different play style that just feels cheap, I guess is the feeling. But I think the same could be said of one side as easily as the other, from one side to another. But a lot of people said removing Found in Raid would improve it. Kill players sell their gear, or if you get good loot, you put it in your gamma. You don't have to worry if you die or not because you could sell it. Here's the thing though, is if there's a really good player in the lobby, right? He's good. He's killing everyone else. He's got a ton of gear on him. You watch him mow down 5 players. Are you really going to go play aggressive for him, or are you going to sit in a corner and wait for him to run past? That's the type of thing of like, it would be better if everyone decided to play aggressive and said, okay, whoever wins this fight is the better player. Cool, awesome. You hit your shots. I didn't. GG, right? But instead, it's now, I don't care if this guy's better than me. I'm going to play in a certain play style. And I think that's just something that as a gaming community, there's nothing, I don't know if you can really change that mindset from the gaming side of things. That's something that has to be more of a community type things. Aggressive because he's probably reloading. That's fair.
All right.
Slower. Yeah. But we can go ahead and move on from this. We had a little Tarkov talk there, and let me vent my frustrations a little bit. But moving on to our next topic, we're going to talk about the Colonial Pipeline. So I don't know if anyone was actually impacted by this, but there were some gas shortages over the weekend or when, this is a couple weeks ago, right?
No, this is actually just
Yeah,
earlier this week. Yeah.
recently happened. Yeah, I'm gonna try my webcam real quick. Hopefully I don't mess anything up here. Here I come to mess up the day.
But yeah, there was what is it? There was a cyber attack.
I think we're live.
It works. Hey, what's up, Andy?
Hey, what's
Oh,
up?
you got a green screen. Whoa.
Oh God,
I do.
now it's just showing him. No. All right, we're good. We're vibing. We're chilling.
Hey,
Okay.
I like that.
So, basically, there was a cyber attack at probably one of the biggest pipelines for gas earlier this week. Recently, they are getting it back up, and they're resuming operations, stuff like that. But there was about to be a gas shortage in about all the southeastern states, I want to say. And man, there are people saying that it was Biden's fault. There are some people saying that we should have paid the ransom just to get the gas up quickly. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Let me preface. It wasn't really a shortage. I do agree with you there, Medic. It was more so they had the gas, they just couldn't get it out safely or effectively. That is.
Yeah. So I mean, for something like this, I think that the pipeline company has a little bit to do with this as well. I mean, obviously their system was compromised. We at work even we just had a server get ransomware too. I mean, it happened. A lot of the times, surprisingly enough, it's caused by just poor, network security. A lot of times they leave it, admin password. and they can get in. But the reality is we have so much oil in this country. We are the world's leading oil producer. We during the start of the coronavirus in March, we were literally paying barges to hold the oil in the Gulf of Mexico. That's how much oil we had. I mean, get oil there for a little bit went below $1 or $0. I mean, there was like negative dollar amount for oil, and so I mean, in terms of world oil crisis, we're nowhere near. Due to all the the low cost of oil. That's one of the issues we've had is the low cost of oil we've had in this country has actually led to a lot of the smaller drilling operations closing down and being bought out by companies like Halliburton and stuff like that. And when people are talking pipelines, I mean, they're moving not only just crude oil, but they're moving refined products like natural gas and whatnot for natural gas turbine plants. And, back home, where I'm from, we have a huge plant with a 6-foot, natural gas pipeline that's pushing millions of cubic feet of gas through to basically create steam. I mean, if something like that were to happen, yeah, I mean, if something like this were to happen, in say like a third world country or, say Africa or, even Europe, I mean, Europe's not quite as large as the United States, and it does rely a little bit on, Russia for its oil and natural gas demands. And at times, the world over. In the United States, we aren't affected by this. We're pretty immune. I mean, Canada has all of its shale oil production. The United States has all of its, Brent crude or that's Europe, but the United States has all of its crude that's up underneath the Rocky Mountains. We're not in any shortage of natural gas, and these people again boiled back down to the conversation we were having about people just reading a news article and then worrying about what they read off a title. I mean, they don't critically think that we have a lot of oil in this country. I mean, billions and billions of barrels, even in reserves. I mean, we're not running out of oil. I mean, this is just a knee-jerk reaction to what they're being fed on TV, and not a realistic look at the
I think
actual
calling it a
situation that's
gas
happening.
shortage was probably the worst thing that they could have done in terms of what to call this news story. Because I really, in my eyes, give up the wrong impression.
Yeah, but that's what people are believing because of the media.
Yeah, and the gas stations were running dry. They were, but it wasn't because of a shortage of gas. It's, in my eyes, I don't really know if Biden made the right call. And I only say I don't know if he could have helped pay off the ransomware, or if it was even the smartest call to wait as long as he did to see if it would come back up. I mean, obviously it's fine now, but that was a super big risk to say, let's not pay the ransomware, let's not help the private company, let's just, let them do their thing, see if they get back online, and we'll call it good, which they did. But in my eyes, that was a super big risk to take. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
I mean, from a
different.
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, from a cybersecurity perspective, I mean, redundancy is really big, and especially critical systems like the, energy grid or, oil and natural gas pipelines. I mean, that stuff should be air gapped. I mean, there's certain monitoring systems that need to be on the, a network, but I think that if somebody from an outside, connection was able to remotely access your stuff, and inflict that kind of harm, I definitely think that certain precautions were failed, and I think that boils down to just basically just laziness or neglect. Companies like Acer got hit by similar attacks. $50 million was what they were ransomed. We were, certain companies like this one, or I just find it hard to believe that if you're running a pipeline that affects a nation's energy security, that you would have systems that are connected. We saw this with a sewer treatment plant. They dumped a hazardous amount of their cleaning agent in the water, which would have basically created a poison gas bomb that would have crippled their sewage treatment plant. I mean, I can't imagine why a system that dispenses chemicals at that rate would obviously not be protected, because that is obviously like almost like a national security thing. I mean, it's affecting our energy grid.
Something, at least coming from a cybersecurity standpoint, and what I'm confused about, because something that happens with my code sometimes, and whenever I'm coding, I do this all the time. I put in some fail safes, stuff like that, just in case the code doesn't work. I always have some backup that'll make it work. It won't be as efficient, won't be as good, but it's still there. Or, in this case, maybe some of it could have been done via not the internet, not network. I just find it hard to hard to believe that one of the biggest pipelines in America couldn't figure out a way to make it function with some of their stuff under ransomware. Or maybe it was functioning and it wasn't just as efficient, but I mean, I think there are a lot of different ways you can go about it. So at least I think.
Yeah, well, and two, one thing is like government and private sector that works on stuff like that, they don't really tend to like to spend money to modernize their stuff. And you'll find in a lot of instances, even like our nuclear missiles, they use technology from the 1960s. I mean, like they have to special order capacitors for their boards when they go out because no one supports that stuff anymore. But the reason why they use that is because it's reliable. It works for 10, 20, 30 years without breaking down. But the problem is, say today I put it in and then 30 years from now, some guy who just went through tech school comes in and he has to fix it. He's not going to know how to fix it. He's relying on old documentation. They're having to call in experts. The code is not even going to be anywhere near the same. You go back 30 years, half the programming languages like, HTML, the new HTML standard CSS3, that stuff wasn't even around, but that's all the stuff that's, modern now. They were using old stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we could push this into a different point. I mean, how do you feel about how much oil we're saving up? I mean, do you think that we should be sending it out to other countries, or do you think we should be holding it for ourselves? What do you guys think?
Well,
I think
I don't know. I don't know a lot. This is not my area of expertise. However, if we're talking about us with a massive reserve that we're not necessarily using or going to use in the foreseeable future, and if we're looking, if you're saying send it out to other countries that may be running out, that's a tough thing, because if we're looking to aid other countries, that's different than marketing it, right? If we're looking to make a buck and capitalize on our reserve, then absolutely I'd say use it in the market, use in the global market, and make money based off of it. And then if we're just looking to aid other countries, I don't know if that's necessarily what we're looking at or what we should be doing as a country. Obviously, we have a lot of relief foundations and things that we do in other countries as well. I think it's also important to not overextend ourselves, and maybe if we do have a massive oil reserve, cutting back on some of the production that we're doing. Obviously, there are some, like Flint, Michigan, there's some areas where oil drilling or any production of any of that has been negative for the environment, for the people surrounding that environment, so that if we had in excess and we were producing enough to keep us going and maybe a slight reserve, I think it may be appropriate to cut back a little bit on the production. I know that that's not how capitalism works. Capitalism doesn't cut back for a profit, but I think that maybe in terms of looking at the environment, and I mean, the Earth has a finite amount of resources, right? Probably not going to run out in our lifetimes, but eventually it will. And that's dependent on how much we take and use and how much we put back into the Earth. So I think that not stockpiling a massive amount could be beneficial, and learning to live within our means as a country, as a society, and as a world on a global scale would be really important for the longevity of humanity and the Earth and whatever that means. But that's my part.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like if I'm a business owner who is responsible for drilling for the oil, I want the oil to cost as much as it can so I can extract it as cheaply as possible. And it obviously doesn't benefit the world or these companies to give the oil out. I mean, obviously you're not in business to lose money. And, as a government, you're concerned about your supply chain and your security. Sorry, my cats keep jumping up on my desk. You obviously are wanting, as a government, to have enough resources for your people, because obviously if you're people are not happy, then obviously you're not happy. And then you have the environmental, side of it where, you extract some. I mean, if you take a look at the earthquake maps in Oklahoma and Texas and all that, you see that, the fracking is causing massive earthquakes. There's thousands upon thousands of them. And so, I mean, there is a huge environmental impact for the extraction of the resources. And then you have, the development side, right? There's, nuclear power that there's a lot of misinformation about. Uh, Back in the 50s and 60s, it was branded as this really evil thing. And so more people built nuclear reactors and they're efficient and they work. And then all of a sudden now, there's an issue with this, hiding the waste from the, nuclear projects. People are saying solar is the answer. And yeah, you can build a 2,000 megawatt solar farm for just as much as you can for an equivalent nuclear farm. And it probably will get cheaper, you're right. But, the amount of space it takes to build an on-land solar plant right now, you're looking at, a 2,000 megawatt plant being, like 2 million or 2 billion when I researched it. And then you have stuff like the tokamak reactors that they're achieving, nuclear fission. They're just not achieving it in a energy positive way. They're putting more energy into it than they're getting out. And right now there's a lot of research into how to basically create the sun on Earth. And they're looking into, different, things like, boron reactors and cobalt salt reactors and sodium salt reactors and stuff like that are more efficient. But again, the development costs are billions and billions and billions and billions. And then, on the research and development side of it as well, you look at the Large Hadron Collider that they built in Switzerland, and there was a lot of misinformation going around saying that as soon as they collided two heavy particles together at, 99.998% the speed of light, that it was going to create a black hole and destroy the Earth. And so that's part of the problem, is getting regulators who are 60 and 70 years old to buy into new technology because they don't understand it. They're still using BlackBerries and their assistants are still shooting text messages out. These corporations that can make these changes and that are doing the research are getting basically shut down because they still have people that don't understand it and think that it's evil, and they are in the position of power to approve or deny it. So I mean, it's not just like a one size fit all problem. I mean, there's definitely a lot of fronts to tackle, and a lot of it is again, we've covered a lot, is people are incapable of forming their own opinion on matters.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That is the society we live in. You have an opinion, you get attacked for it, yet we preach about free speech. But it's like, if you don't hop on a bandwagon, well then you're just an awful human being that, doesn't deserve to be in America at all. Or, in some cases, some people think that you shouldn't even, be a person. So that's just the day and age we live in.
Yeah, I think that we got a lot of interesting things coming in the future, coming soon to a country near you. But we can go ahead and move on. Do you guys want to move on to the vaccines topic real quick?
Oh, sure. I mean, we can go over if you want. It's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm 100% okay with going green and going Canada. Go Canada! Woo! Love Canada. Love those people, man. Your syrup is so good.
My ouchie.
All right, so moving on to the topic of vaccines, we're going to talk about a few things here. We're going to talk about, number one, who has them. If you don't have them, we'll beat you publicly. And then we'll talk about the different types, how you've reacted to it, and different things like that. So I'll start out. I'll say that I've been lazy. I don't ever leave my house, so I haven't gotten mine yet. I am planning on getting it. I know people who are not planning on getting it, but I just haven't gotten it. I haven't gotten around to it yet. Planning on doing it soon. What about you, Christian?
Yeah, I got my 2 doses. I will say that the second one was pretty rough. It's a lot harder on your immune system, and if you have a weak one, you're probably gonna be sick for a week. But I was only out for like a night, literally a night, and I was back to normal the next day.
Your immune system is so strong. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. All right, but in terms of vaccines, I've basically have them all. So, what about you, Indy?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have every vaccine except for this one. It isn't because I haven't wanted it. It's just basically laziness on my part. This vaccine is interesting for me because, and my girlfriend's in the back. She's probably gonna laugh at it because she's in the medical field. But it's an RNA virus. bacteria, or it's a RNA vaccine. So conventional vaccines, they basically use a weakened form of the virus itself to basically teach your body how to react to it. So this body attacks it, figures out how to defeat it. They have that memory. That's how you gain immunity from a standard vaccine. RNA doesn't use any of the vaccine period. It just uses the genetic code, and they basically just sequence it and then basically inject the genetic code into the vaccine, and it affects it completely different. I mean, basically the white blood cells get used to fighting on a conventional vaccine the piece of the virus, whereas with an RNA virus, it creates an antibody response and produces antigens that way because it recognizes basically what it is. And the RNA vaccine stuff is interesting because I believe it's just an offshoot of CRISPR, which is basically turning genes on and off. There's a lot of research behind it and just using genetic code instead of altering a living thing. A virus is neither alive nor dead. It's just genetic code with a crystalline structure around it. It's kind of like a Lego where it slots in a certain way and attaches to the proteins. And that's how coronavirus works, is it basically just, spike protein, it connects right into a certain receptor, and that's basically how it gets into the body. I mean, it's really hard right now because mRNA vaccines are such a new field of research. And for me, it's kind of scary because I've been following CRISPR for the last, 8-10 years. Even since I was in high school, I was really interested in RNA and CRISPR. And this vaccine has been developed really fast and I trust it. I just, like I said, I haven't gotten down, and I'm kind of watching to see if anyone grows like a third arm out their side or something.
Yeah, it made me grow a third arm, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh my! Oh man!
Right, boys.
So I don't know. I've seen a lot of different things being said about the COVID-19 vaccine. Personally, I don't know. I haven't experienced a thing other than like shivering at night because I got like a small cold. But
Here's a
there were
question for you guys.
Go for it.
Have you guys actually had COVID yet?
No, I haven't.
As far as I'm aware, I have not.
Have not. I have had it. It wasn't fun for me personally. I know that there's a lot of people that, I personally in my life that have passed away from it. And I had it. My girlfriend's whole family had it. Unfortunately, in our immediate circle, there was no fatalities. I mean, unfortunately, people did pass away on the outer circle. But the virus, the issue with coronavirus specifically is it affects everyone differently. For me, I had no sense of smell and taste for 3 months, 4 months. I don't taste and smell some things. I'm really self-conscious of like body odor, especially because I know that my smell doesn't work. So I'm hyper like, oh, do I smell? So like I'm constantly putting deodorant on, and I take like 2 showers a day because I just like, I want to make sure that my smell doesn't affect my people's perception of me. I had headache, I had the fever, chills, runny nose, sore throat, chest, and I didn't really have a hard time breathing. But what's been really weird to me is before I was relatively healthy. I'm a bigger guy, but I was able to pretty much jog a mile and a half without too many problems. And walking up a flight of stairs like killed me. I was just like keeled over the stairs, like breathing like super hard, like I just ran a marathon. And so that's I think that to prevent people from losing loved ones, or to even me, like right now I'm talking on a phone at work and I'm walking around the office and I'm getting winded just walking around the office. And so this virus doesn't kill people, but it, they say like something like 60% of the people who catch it have negative effects. And, I definitely realized that, like my breathing's one of them. Like I probably don't have nowhere near the lung capacity, and people are now having like strokes and stuff because it attacks the lining of your blood vessels. And so some of the fatalities from this virus aren't from the virus itself; it's from the side effects of the virus, and that's what people don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, I never had it, but for the brief moment that I felt like I was dying at night, it wasn't fun at all. I couldn't sleep. And then when I finally did, I woke up and I was just fine. But I mean,
The cat's just sitting on his chest.
I mean, it doesn't. It just for me personally. I guess it's because of how I was raised, but it doesn't make sense to me for somebody that their entire life is based around microbiology, cells, pharmaceuticals, stuff like that, to go, yeah, this vaccine is safe. That people put a lot of time, blood, money, energy into it, and for somebody to just go, haha, vaccine bad, and then just disregard your 20 years of experience or whatever. I mean,
Yep.
that to me is just mind-boggling. And over what, like somebody on Facebook who has no knowledge on the subject, who like read one article on a vaccine myth or whatever that isn't even really true, probably.
No, Christian. See, there was a very, very scientific study done proving that vaccines were linked to autism. Okay, very scientific, very real, very
Jenny
true.
McCarthy,
many flaws in the procedure.
Definitely did. No, it was disproven.
I don't even
it was
think
disproven. That whole
Yeah,
thing.
okay,
That
I
whole
was
thing
gonna say,
it
I'm
was
pretty
literally
sure
disproven, and people
Well,
still
not only
claim
was
that
it
it's true.
disproven, but Jenny McCarthy came out and straight up said that she just did it for popularity. She straight up admitted it was false.
And there are still people who still believe, just because they're so damn ignorant. they're like, no. I'm not gonna believe it because it's on the internet. Not everything on the internet is true. Like, bitch, you believed it the first time.
I think the one that was so laughable to me is like there are what is it? Oh my god, they're like little tiny robots in the vaccine for the government to control.
Yeah.
I was like,
Bill
what
Gates'
the
nano chip.
what the fuck have we come to, dude? When I was reading that, I was like, are you joking? Like, this is like the whole birds are government type thing. Like, if I shoot a bird, I'm seeing blood and shit coming out. I'm not seeing a bunch of wires.
And people forget that they carry around a cell phone in their pocket, right? Like, Google knows where you're at all times. Apple knows where you're at all times. Like,
they don't need birds. They don't need anything. They quite literally have an entire.
What's my address?
Yeah, like they have an entire walking collection of your entire life, like in your pocket.
By the way, anyone watching, if you think that anything on your phone is private,
you are dead wrong. You are so wrong.
You're like, oh my god, they're reading my text. It's like, oh no, they're doing more than that.
I don't want to like get into like the tin pot side of it, but like literally, like your phone in your pocket, if you have a smart TV, will link up to your TV at such a high frequency that you can't hear anything, but your phone and your TV will trade advertising information. And when you're talking, your TV develops ads. When you're playing on your phone and you're talking, your phone develops ads, and that's just the way it works. These Alexa,
I need some penis pills.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like,
is it working
to make it smaller, right?
Imaging.
Yeah. So, but I mean,
so
like,
hard carrying
Amazon
it around
straight up admitted that they have 12 to 1,500 people dedicated to listening to your Alexa. Turn this on. They're actively monitoring the conversations, looking for advertising information. I mean, and they've been doing it for a while. I mean, Facebook is one of the biggest problems with it. Facebook has even done stuff like they'll modify the timelines of kids that are 13 to 16, and the kids ended up killing themselves. They did it to like 1,000 kids, and 13 kids ended up killing themselves, citing Facebook just as nothing but negative stuff. There's a lot of really sketchy stuff, and people don't realize it is, you don't need to be chipped. Like, Facebook has your entire life without you having to put a single thing on Facebook. Like, if you go to Facebook and you download your Facebook data, you will find so much stuff in there about you that you didn't even know about yourself. And that's just downloadable by you. Every conversation, every page you viewed, they have your political ideologies. They'll straight up say, hey, look, you're a liberal, or hey, look, you're a conservative. I mean, they have advertising set up to what they feel like your political beliefs are, and 9 times out of 10, it's probably right. If you're a moderate, and a lot of that comes from the harvesting on your phone. And Facebook owns now Instagram. They own Oculus, the VR headset company. I mean, they're harvesting so much raw data off of us, and people don't realize it. It's like, you don't need to be chipped by a vaccine to know that. I mean, and then you turn around and Utah, the U.S. government, NSA built a massive harvesting facility to record every phone call, every text message, everything like that, and the eyes of national security. And so even the government, the cell phone that you have, they don't need to have a chip to know exactly what you're into. The FBI, even if you look up, what they recently did with the, hack to patch debacle, and that's maybe something we can talk about on the next podcast. But,
the Snowden thing as well.
Yeah, even that. But I mean, the government got a warrant to hack into servers to fix a Microsoft Outlook issue, an email issue. The stuff they put in the vaccine isn't anything that people need to be worried about. It's what's coming off of your phone and what's being harvested out of our real life.
And Medic in the chat, you said, well, time to delete nudes. I got bad news for you, buddy.
It's too late.
It's too late. If you have taken a picture of your dick, it's somewhere. It's somewhere out there. I promise.
It's in some database somewhere.
And to the FBI man watching this, you're welcome.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. FBI man, how you doing? You enjoyed my browsing history the other night?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Printer brings up a great point. It's just a thing that everyone says yes to in the TOS. There have been companies that have gotten better about it that ask you if you want personalized ads, stuff like that. I mean, Google, if you go into your settings, they still store that information, but they don't sell it and they don't use it, I believe.
Well, and a lot of that, it was driven by the UK or the European Union's privacy laws. I forget what the name of it is, but they have to disclose what's being tracked on you, so they might as well just let you opt out of what can be. And California is hosted in Google's hosted in California, so they have to comply with California's data regulations that mirror Europe's data regulations, and the right to be forgotten, the right to have your data deleted. If they don't comply with that, they're found guilty and they're civilly liable, and criminally, they can be gone after for failing to protect people's data.
Absolutely.
So there is one more topic, though.
Yeah, we got one more topic. So we're gonna go ahead and get into just a quick news story. So Florida woman posed as student to promote her Instagram page. Investigators said Audrey Francisquini, 28, snuck onto the campus of a Miami area high school and handed out pamphlets printed with her Instagram account. First of all, why the fuck are you printing out your Instagram account, bro? Like, we're in the digital age. You don't need paper to promote your fucking Instagram. Like,
it's Florida woman. There's no answer to it.
I wish I could find her Instagram account because the link that was on the article broke. But it says a 28-year-old woman who wanted to promote her Instagram page attempted to blend in with students at a Miami area high school. Monday's stunt at American Senior High School landed Audrey Francisquini in jail, where she's facing charges of burglary, interfering with a school function, and resisting arrest without violence, the records show. Francisquini started handing out pamphlets printed with her Instagram account. Again, fucking why are you printing it out? But they were printed with her Instagram account after sneaking onto the campus around 8:30 a.m. Monday morning. She had a black backpack and carried a skateboard as she walked through the hallways. This is my favorite, Hillary Clinton just chilling in Cedar Rapids moment. She's like, how do I look like a high school student? She's like, I know, I'll carry a fucking skateboard. They'll never suspect a thing.
Man, she made a pamphlet, dude, with her Instagram. Like,
she's got a fucking
she had to sit there and make it. She had to sit there, make that trifold, put her information on it, and then hand it out. Like,
there's a picture for you.
Oh my lord.
More
in the chat.
How do you do?
Oh, how do you do, fellow kids? There you go. But anyways, apparently the security was like, hey, what are you doing? She was like, I'm going to the registration office as a 28-year-old woman. And then they were like, well, she went towards the registration office, but then didn't go inside. And they were like, okay, nope.
Start skating through the halls, just like throwing flyers at people.
Yeah. And then
I guess I was.
All right. It says, ironically enough, authorities tracked her down through her, guess what, Instagram page and arrested her later on Monday at her home in North Miami Beach. Unless that's a real place, that may be a typo. Unless folks, is North Miami Beach a place?
Which is funny, since you just talked about companies, knowing your exact location and all that. They tracked her through Instagram.
Oh yeah, don't post stupid shit. If you're in high school, don't post your stupid shit on Instagram, on Snapchat, on anything like that. If you're partying, doing whatever, just No phones, no pictures. You don't want that shit. Not gonna implicate myself in anything, but we had a rule in high school that just like phones didn't come out. If we saw someone taking videos or pictures, like, no.
Yeah, put away, bro.
Yeah, they would get
they were
kicked
banned.
out. Yeah. But anyways, we can't find the Instagram page for this person. I'm sure that she has since done something about it. But that is, I don't know, guys. If you had to, okay, scenario time. Christian and Andy, if you guys had to promote your Instagram page to a high school, how would you do it?
Oh boy, Andy, you go first. I gotta think about this one.
Okay, the question is it legal or no?
Theoretically, you don't get arrested for doing this.
Okay, theoretically. Oh shoot, man. If I had to, PowerPoint, right? I don't know, man. I would probably just get a huge banner and just strap it all the way across the front of the school or something. Just like make it a stunt. I mean, just go by the everyone has to see it mentality, right? Or hey, I don't know. That's tough. That's tough because high school kids are different. They're built different now.
They are built very different, yeah. How about you, Christian? How would you promote to the high school student of today?
Man, let's see. I don't have any pronouns on my page, so what would I do? I think I would display something that I was super good at, because a lot of kids these days are just like all, clickbaity title type shit. So I think if I had something that I could clickbait and like make them want to go see my page, I think that'd be the best way to go about it. Or just like dressing up in a T-Rex costume and running around with a cape that has my Instagram on it. Don't know.
Okay. I like that. The two very different approaches, and both could probably work. It's Doug the Bug. I was good at sucking dick in the bathroom. Follow me on Instagram.
Oh,
honestly, probably a good strategy for advertising.
Get some freaks, but it would work.
Oh, you'd get a lot of people, dude.
Follow for sucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, here we go. Another one.
I don't know if you can really offer that to high school students. I don't think that's actually appropriate. However, if I were to advertise my Instagram page to high school students today, I would just put up posters of a QR code, nothing else. And I would rely on their curiosity to scan that QR code just to see what it is, and it would automatically follow my Instagram page.
Oh my god, you won't believe where this leads to.
Just put a picture of like Kate Upton on the poster and then a QR code. Because sex sells.
So now we know what James watches on his free time.
She is an actress. Okay, she is very talented.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we talked about the brilliant lady who was really just doing her best to network, and now, ladies and gentlemen, why? Oh no! Talk for a second, Christian. Talk about how's your sex life, Christian?
Wow! Why are we? Imagine you haven't been able to hear me this entire time.
Let's see here.
So I mean, just researching Florida Woman a little bit. I mean, it looks like she hacked into a police officer's Instagram in 2017, posted nudes. I feel like that's a great way, computer crime, computer fraud, misuse. I feel like that's
we don't have
a felony. Yeah, I feel like you just don't do that. Don't host. Don't hack people. That's bad, I hear.
Yeah. Okay. So looks like that was not her first interesting experience. Okay. So
all unique.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up the podcast today with our segment, which our segment is Would You Rather? And I know it's very exciting, very original, but we talk about things we would rather do with prompts that I find on the internet that I think are interesting. So we're gonna go with this one. I was looking at some dirty ones, but we're gonna go with this one because this one's actually intriguing. Boy. Would you rather never wear underwear again or never wear socks again?
Socks.
Yeah, I'm just saying, swamp ass sucks, but I can't go without socks, my dude. It'd have to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right? Even though it's not conventional by any means, I would much rather just not have underwear than to never
Yeah.
wear socks again. Because I feel like it'd be way more painful if I were to not wear socks. And I feel like it would also be really. I feel like my feet would be exposed to a lot more dangerous things than my. Because I have pants on, I guess, right? You didn't say anything about that. So
you can wear pants. You just can't wear underwear. So
I could wear shorts and then pants, and then that's a loop. Or, yeah, it's a loophole.
Best of luck to all of our leather seat users. It's already bad enough, but it almost is unanimous in the chat that everyone wants socks and says fuck it to the underwear.
Yep.
Oops, my pants slipped. All right, that one was too easy. I'm gonna do one more. That was too fast. That was too quick. I was thinking that would get us thinking too much, but then I realized that made too much sense.
Yeah.
So let's see. Okay. Would you rather send nudes to your boss or to your parents?
Oh boy.
Ugh. Can I just die? Is death an option?
No, in this scenario, there are two options. You have a picture of your penis on your phone. There are two contexts on your phone. You have to click one of them.
I don't know. I think Horsey makes a good point with the parents because they've already seen it all in a sense. In a sense.
In a sense.
But I don't. Now that I'm 21, I don't want them to look at me naked anymore. So.
Oh man,
it was rough.
Chick-fil-A boss.
Yeah, send it to the Chick-fil-A boss,
100%.
It really depends on if it's like a fast food boss versus like my, career, my dream job boss.
How about
I would think
your current boss, and if you don't have a current boss, the last boss you had, or if you've never had a boss, a boss you would potentially have at a fast food restaurant.
Ew. If it's from a boss at a fast food restaurant, I just be like, oops, oh well, fire me. I don't care. If it's my current boss, like my boss is kind of chill, and I have rent and bills, and stuff's expensive to live. So I'd say I'd probably just like send it to my parents and just be like, oh my god, I totally just like meant to send it to someone else. I'm so sorry, and then just like never talk to my parents ever again.
Oh yeah, okay. I was gonna think send it to the boss and never talk to your boss ever again, but okay, the parents, yeah, goodbye.
I just hope my boss isn't watching this right now.
Cut him off.
Because I saw my boss the podcast, and he has it on a speaker at work, and I don't know if he's still doing that. And if he is,
hi Christian's boss. Would you rather get a picture of Christian's penis, or would you rather it be sent to his parents?
I think there's an obvious answer there.
I mean, you never know, Christian.
Okay. Okay, if we're thinking about this logically, I think I'd have to go with my parents because they've already seen it all, and I would never be able to show my face at work again, and I love to eat there. So I would just have to go with my parents, I think. As weird as
the Chick-fil-A manager. He picked his parents over the Chick-fil-A manager.
Well, because I don't know about my mom, but my dad would like high five me, like
he'd be like, "That's my boy."
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. What about you? What about you, James?
Well, here's the thing: if I was working like somewhere other than my last previous employment, I would 100% send it to my boss. First of all, my parents are like, they don't deserve to see that. Like, they deserve better than that, Like, I don't need to damper your day with that. But also my last place of employment. Oh man, it would just be so strange. But yeah, it would probably be the boss. And then I'd come into work the next day. I'd look him in the eye, and I would be like, so what'd you think? That's a lie. Actually, we probably would just never talk about it ever again. Because we dealt with issues like that and just never talked about them, which is a very healthy way to process emotions. So yeah, I'd send to my boss. My parents would be saved. They would never know that I put my genitalia in front of a camera. They'd be proud of me for that. And you like what you see. Yeah, no. But if I was working at like a place where my boss wasn't like 65 years old, I'd probably have a little bit more fun with it. Probably joke around a little bit. Like, so, you want to go get some dinner? You know? And then be like, hey, fuck off. And then, you know, we'd like make out and be crazy and shit, you know, like weird. We're like, whoa, that's so cool and quirky. We've been married now for 5 years. Gives your boss a heart attack? Probably, dude.
And before boss's wife sees those photos, I choose that one.
All right, so we are currently 17 minutes over, but we will actually have it out on Spotify this week because we have VODs turned on.
Yes, it'll be on Spotify, it'll be on YouTube, all that good shit. I think we made the YouTube channel. I think I made it, so it'll be there. We'll post the links on the Discourse and stuff. Wherever you heard about this podcast, you'll get the same information about this podcast. So, boss's mail. Yes. No, that was the gist of it there. That I would be making out with a man. Drop all of the links. So we got the Discords, all that other stuff. We don't actually really have anything set up for this stream yet. I've been mostly like setting up all the graphics for this stream, but I'm also like very busy with all of my own stream stuff. So I basically work on this podcast for about 40 minutes after I had my stream on Fridays. And then we do it that way. And it's worked out perfectly. There is a cat behind you.
There's a cat right here behind me.
Why is the name called The Boys Podass Live? Why not? Why not?
Okay. It's just the username. Who cares, right?
Yeah. Well, once we get partnered on Twitch, we will we'll go to Twitch and be like, hey, can you yeet all of the other hundreds Boys Podcast Live ripoff channels? Dude, there's literally so many channels called The Boys Podcast or Boys Podcast, and they don't do anything. We are the most prolific Boys Podcast channel on Twitch. But it is called The Podass, yes. And I think it's probably going to stay like that forever because it's a meme.
People are going to be like, hey, you watch The Podass?
The Podass Boys. my favorite Podass episode this week. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in for the second week in a row. This will be finally posted live. We'll get that up tonight. Thank you so much, Andy, for joining us. We look forward to having you again in the future on the podcast if you're available. Christian is always here looking super sexy with his light up microphone. Love to see that light up somewhere else. But anyways, thank you so much for everything that you guys do. And thank you guys all for watching. You guys are the best. We'll have some sort of outro in the future, but we don't today. So goodbye. Get the fuck out.